treatment by design is really, for somebody with dementia, they process the world through something called sensory-based knowledge. This is how you make me feel. This is how I perceive the world through smell, taste, and sound. It's very different than you and me that rely on propositional knowledge like dates, times, specifics. And that can be a whole presentation on itself. It's called epistemology, the way we process the world. However, simply put, is just people with dementia rely very much on feelings and emotions. We'll leave it there. So with this is visually, the color lime green will stand out more and be more stimulating and more vibrant as the person ages. This is the way that the eye actually ages. So simple things like green duct tape will come in handy to put on light switches or on stairways. Also keep in mind that the color lime green can improve reading ability. So if you're going to write a letter to your father or your spouse, try to use a green marker that will actually stimulate reading ability. To make myself sound smart, it's a process called neurological stimulation, neurological processing and stimulation to keep your eye moving forward so that it actually keeps your eye moving forward and will improve reading ability. With that is also color and dining. I get a lot of questions that a family will call and say, my loved one's living at home and they're not eating enough. If you have white plates, that's a challenge. A lot of times places will have white plates and there's not a lot of contrast. However, there are ways around that by using different color foods, making sure it's very vibrant. But research is showing that the color red actually stimulates appetite and can encourage more eating. The color dark blue will suppress appetite, so if somebody's overeating. And then for people that don't quite have dementia yet, but are having some cognitive challenges, they show that lime green and yellow are great colors to use. So for people at home, I always say the two colors you would really want, depending on the behavior, is red or dark blue. And that's a really cost-effective non-pharmacological approach to managing your loved one's eating habits. Some other things too, I'll share is a dignified way to help people. So when you go out to eat with your loved one, is instead of using a bib or napkin, is they have dining scarves you can put up that actually can help with help keep people dignified. And right on Amazon, there's a company called Dinerware. I highly suggest it. You can purchase these very inexpensive. And when you go out to eat, you just have a scarf you put on and you can take it off. It looks very nice. For those of you that love to cook, your loved one may have challenges with eating. So things like scrambled eggs are really tough to eat. But you can bake everything into a muffin. So I always call these muffin meals, where you can put scrambled eggs, ham, and bacon. They can pick it up. They're very successful. When they feel successful, they're going to eat more. So keeping that in mind. Also hydration. I can't stress enough. In memory care, there's a number of issues, and one being reminding the person to drink is incredibly important. One thing I have to say is most memory cares are fantastic or having a hydration program in place where residents constantly have exposure to water. Our brains are actually 73% water. So making sure we have enough water to hydrate it is incredibly crucial. So most assisted livings have a hydration program where they have fruit infused water, they have crystal lights, they have different things that are going to stimulate those taste buds and also get that person to drink more. UTIs are alarming for people that live at home independently. So making sure that they constantly have access to water, that they have sweet things that they can drink are really important. Technically, we should have 64 fluids of water every single day. So trying to push that as much as possible. Here's another fun fact, white is the hardest color to see. So with that being said, things like an all-white toilet seat can increase fall risks at home. So having a contrast toilet seat is really important. I'm going to talk more about that in the next section. But even contrast in the blankets. It should have different color pillowcases, different color blankets, so that person can easily navigate that bed. Also, many blinds. There's one research study I really love, which shows that white many blinds, because blue and green isn't enough contrast, can actually create some depression and apathy because they can't let the eye visually focus on what's on the other side. So either pulling them up or replacing them with a dark brown can be a good alternative. And even here, something as simple as having an all-white bureau with white knobs, that person might not see the knobs and have difficulty getting in their drawers. So maybe changing out that color knob to a different color can be really beneficial. This is, I think, the last slide in this section, and then we'll get to the tangible tools for you. Is in this project, it actually showed that using a black sheet can actually encourage your loved one or your spouse to stay out of bed longer. A lot of people will start to get apathy and they know they might have a cognitive issue. So what happens is they go through some depression and apathy and they'll stay in bed. However, what research shows is when they get up to brush their teeth, if you remove all the linens, like the blankets and the pillows, don't make it comfortable looking. You want it to look a little bit not so comfortable. They're less likely to go into bed. And also the color black from above the kneecap up isn't perceived as scary, but they pay less attention to it. So they're less likely to go back into bed. There's a lot of research around this, and we could talk about this a whole bunch more. But just know that the color black can actually encourage people to stay out of bed, and getting rid of that visual cue to say, oh, it's comfortable, I want to go back into bed, try to remove that as well. So environmental triggers, keep in mind when you visit your loved one that these might actually trigger some behaviors, such as wandering. For example, coats, hats, jackets, pocketbooks, umbrellas. When you walk in to visit your loved one and you leave with those, it's a visual trigger to say, hey, that person's leaving. It triggers the behavior of them wanting to wander around. Also, things like briefcases or bags. You'll notice if you bring your loved one to a residential living community, if you leave those bags there, they'll just constantly repack and repack and repack. So when you move them in, remove anything that's going to trigger them to want to leave, even car keys. A lot of times family members will visit their loved one in a community and say, they have car keys, put them on the table, and the loved one says, you drive, can you help me go so-and-so wherever. Those can trigger some wandering or loping behaviors. Even this, I won't get too much into it, but placed in an unfamiliar environment, when people first move to assisted living or community, the first 35 days is when they're transitioning. It takes somebody on average about 35 days to become acclimated to a new environment. So they will wander just a little bit. Also keep in mind saying goodbye. And I can't stress this enough with families. When you say goodbye to your loved one, they don't remember you saying goodbye, but they have the feeling of something missing. So when you leave, they go looking for it. This is even people living at home. You go by and you visit your mom that has mild dementia maybe and still living at home independently. You say goodbye to them. They don't remember you saying goodbye. They might not remember you visiting. What happens is they go looking for it and they feel like something's missing. So that can really increase wandering or eloping or walking out that front door. Sundowning is something that a lot of people struggle with. So sundowning happens as it's a neurological phenomenon that when the sun goes down or comes up, people will have behaviors. I'm just going to give you some tools for this instead of explaining it more. I have to say caffeinated coffee works really well. So many people that work with dementia say, no, they have dementia, they can't have caffeinated coffee. I actually would argue caffeinated coffee stimulates the brain and wakes you up. After 12 o'clock, you want to go to decaf. That will foster circadian rhythm and decrease sundowning behavior. Something as simple as even using pajamas. When caregivers put pajamas on 2 hours before the sun goes down, that can actually trigger melatonin release in the brain, and you're triggering that person to start unwinding to go to bed, and they're going to be more successful sleeping.